Godhwani Singh has filed a case against his elder brother Malvinder and former Religare CEO Sunil Godhwani in the Company Law Tribunal for oppression and mismanagement of RHC Holdings, Fortis and Religare. In a statement issued late last night, Shivinder Singh, and I quote, said, "This action was long overdue but got delayed in the fond hope that better sense shall eventually prevail and another ugly chapter of the family feud would not be written in our family business's glorious history," end of quote. So how will this feud between the Singh brothers now play out in the future, and will it further dent the image of Fortis, which is already facing a fair degree of adversity? We will discuss that and more with Jane Gupta, the former ED at SEBI, corporate lawyer H.P. Ranina, Sandeep Parekh, founder of FinSec Law Advisors. We'll also be joined by Brian Hines, a former member the Radha Swami Satsang Vyas. Remember, in 2015, Shivinder Singh had stepped down from an active role at Fortis to serve full-time at the RSSB. And now the allegation is that the Radha Swami Satsang Vyas has also been dragged into this controversy, with the Dhillon family playing a role. Jane Gupta, the former ED SEBI, Sandeep Parekh, founder of FinSec Law Advisors, also here with us. With what's up, let's go across to our colleague Ekta Batra. Ekta, for months, there has been controversy over Religare, over Fortis, and now the Singh brothers have decided to split. Take us through the developments that have eventually culminated into Shivinder dragging his brother Malvinder Singh to the NCLT.
Well, yes, absolutely, Shireen. Just to put it into perspective, we have a couple of key players within this entire saga. So let me just introduce that first. First is Malvinder Singh, who was the former promoter of Ranbaxy, Fortis and Religare, and was really running the business actively. Shivinder Singh, who was also the former promoter of Ranbaxy, Fortis and Religare, and also the younger brother of Malvinder Singh. Sunil Godhwani, who's the former head of Religare, and the RSSB, which is basically the spiritual sect, and Gurinder Singh, who's the head of the RSSB sect. Now, what exactly was one of the biggest developments that we've seen in the past couple of years when it came to Fortis was Shivinder Singh, in fact, stepping down from an active role in Fortis to join the spiritual sect RSSB in 2015. Now, Jan 2016 onwards, he continued to play a non-executive vice chairman role in Fortis. So that meant that he was on the board of Fortis, but he did not have any sort of active role in the company. Feb 2018 was really when things became very bad and, blew up for the entire, for both the brothers. So, for example, the Delhi High Court upheld the 3,500 crore arbitral award to Daiichi, and we had reports of the Singh brothers siphoning off around 473 crores from Fortis. The auditor refused to sign off on the quarterly numbers, and at this point in time, it was largely a united front from both the brothers. The Singh brothers issued a joint press release stepping down as directors of Fortis. Plus, they also sent in another press release saying that they assure shareholders they are not going anywhere and will be addressing issues. This was on concerns that maybe they would also flee the country, and hence they issued that particular press release. Now, separately, however, there was some sort of sparks of dissent coming in from Shivinder Singh in the next couple of months. So, for example, in May 2018, Shivinder Singh wrote a letter to the Fortis board raising objections on the bidding process. Plus, in July of 2018, there were reports of differences emerging between the two Singh brothers. So, Shivinder Singh, for example, claimed he was not in a position of authority when Fortis gave unsecured advances. He was not a part of the audit committee or any sort of subcommittee at Fortis. But Malvinder Singh has said, apparently, that all decisions were taken collectively. However, there were also reports that Shivinder Singh brought out against Sunil Godhwani, saying that, he was one of the key reasons for the kind of transactions that they saw. Now, after that, August, September, there were reports of a lot of questioning of the RSSB sect as well as the RSSB sect leader, Gurinder Singh Dhillon, and what kind of role he's actually played in all of these financial transactions. So that probably was the last straw, Shireen, because, September 2018 or yesterday, yes, when Shivinder Singh moved against Malvinder Singh and Sunil Godhwani in the NCLT court, he did say that one of the reasons for him to break his silence was because of the planted articles blaming an elder in the family, which compelled him to do so. While he hasn't named the elder, it is assumed to be the head of the RSSB sect. But in fact, Shireen?
Well, that comprehensively pieces together what has transpired so far. As Ekta was pointing out, till February of 2018, we saw joint statements coming in from both Shivinder and Malvinder Singh. But since then, there has been a sense of difference, of division between the two brothers, which is now out in the open, with Shivinder Singh taking Malvinder Singh and Sunil Godhwani to the NCLT. We understand that that matter is likely to be taken up as early as tomorrow. But Ekta, you have someone with you who has an understanding of how the RSSB works and the connections between Sunil Godhwani, the Singhs and the RSSB.
Yes, absolutely. I have with me Brian Hines, who's the former member of the RSSB. Mr. Brian, let's start with the fact that you've had a relationship with the RSSB sect. Can you give us a sense in terms of how far back it goes, and why exactly are you a dissenter now?
Well, I was an initiate, a member of RSSB for 35 years, from 1970 to about 2005, and it was about that time, after Sharon Singh died and Gurinder Singh became the guru, that I became disillusioned. I mean, I just wasn't finding that it was bringing, the mystical insights that were predicted. And also I was finding that as I rose and became a speaker and wrote some books for the organization, that the people I was interacting with, who were very close to the guru, appeared to be just like ordinary people, just like myself, and weren't like elevated spiritual beings. So that was when I decided to break off from the group and started a blog called Church of the Churchless, and started writing about my doubts. And other people have, it's been 14 years, and it's just been an interesting journey of being independently seeking spirituality rather than through the RSSB organization.
Sure. Brian, there have been many reports of the RSSB head or even the sect being associated with a lot of financial dealings, for example, even with Fortis. What has your experience been?
Well, I really know mostly what I read about in the Indian business press, but then I also hear from people who want to remain confidential or anonymous, who know quite a bit about how the RSSB inner workings. And, they tell me that there is a very close connection between people in the higher-ups in the RSSB organization and Religare, Fortis. They have been involved in running the companies. They've been on the boards of the companies, and this has been reported in the Indian financial press, that the guru and his family, are owners in the companies, and there's many shell companies that have been set up. So, it's a very complex web of financial dealings, which is really pretty shocking to people like me and others who remember in the days of Sharon Singh, the previous guru, when RSSB was, entirely viewed as a spiritual group dedicated to the spiritual uplift of its members. And now they've just gone on they buy property all over the world. They've been building centers. And so Gurinder Singh seems to have a businessman's mentality more than, he is still acting like a guru, but he, certainly not in the ways that the previous gurus did, who were very humble and down to earth. He has a lavish lifestyle with private jets and has become very rich during his time as guru with his dealings with the Singh brothers.
Okay, that's exactly the point I wanted to bring up, Brian. So what are the kind of assets that you think that the RSSB holds, according to you, in your experience?
It's been many years, since I was a member, and they never told us, there's never any reporting of how much they have. Clearly, they've expanded the Dera in the Punjab, hugely. They've been building at a very rapid rate. They've been acquiring properties, at a very rapid rate. So I have no idea, they must file financial reports as a charitable organization, but I'm I'm not aware of that. Shivinder Singh has overseen a massive, increase in the number of overseas, centers and buildings, Australia, Canada, all over the world. So, he's been, acting kind of like a cross between a guru and a businessman. But in the old days, this was just not done.
Okay, all right, Brian, we're going to leave it on that note. Thanks very much for joining in and giving your perspective. Shireen, back to you.
Well, let's go across now to J.N. Gupta and Sandeep Parekh. Mr. Gupta, let me start by asking you, because let's talk about the most recent development, and that is Shivinder Singh's statement yesterday, as well as his decision now to take Malvinder Singh, his brother, and Sunil Godhwani, the former CEO of Religare, to the NCLT for alleged oppression and mismanagement of Religare RHC Holdings as well as Fortis. Now, how would you read this development? Do you believe that this is, in a sense, Shivinder Singh trying to distance himself from the consequences of what might follow, given that there are various investigations and probes that are underway? And will it fly?
आज कनेक्शन में डिले बहुत ज़्यादा है.
Mr. Gupta, is my voice getting through to you? Okay, let me put that across to Sandeep. Sandeep, I don't know if you heard my question to J.N. Gupta, but essentially my point is that now that Shivinder Singh seems to be trying to distance himself from the dealings and affairs of the companies, as well as from his own brother and the former CEO of Religare, saying that, look, I'm not liable for what they did, and you cannot hold me liable merely for my shareholding because I had no executive role and responsibility. Do you think that that this case will have legs?
I don't think it will fly. In legal parlance, we call it a noisy withdrawal. So if you kind of disassociating yourself from a company, and he has been, at least he calls himself a non-executive chairman of that company, of Fortis. So I don't think he can disassociate himself from all the dealings of that company. And pretty much the only way even the New Companies Act recognizes withdrawal is through a noisy withdrawal, which is you announce to the world that you are no longer associated with this, and any responsibility which comes out of being associated shall henceforth not be kind of applicable. So being the promoter family of this very company, I think it will be very hard for him to convince a court of law that he was not responsible for any of the wrongdoings, and his, all the joint statements made till very recently will all be held against him. So I think it's going to be a tough sell, really.
It's going to be a tough sell. Mr. J.N. Gupta, would you agree with what we've just heard there from Sandeep Parekh, that this noisy withdrawal attempt on the part of Shivinder Singh is going to be a tough sell for him?
It is not only tough, it is raising many more questions also. First, he was there on the board, and the board has a collective responsibility. And if the board member itself is saying that I had no role, I do not know what was happening in the board, then who will be answerable to shareholders? So to me, now it is a very fit case for all the shareholders to ask questions to all the board members, what the hell you people were doing. And these two brothers were on the board. See, they were appointed on the board of Religare and Fortis again 2 years back. So you cannot say that I was there, but I was a sleepy guy, I was dozing off and I did not know. The second thing is that why at this stage? We have been writing, another proxy advisory must have been writing about the state of affairs in these two companies. And not only that, forget about my writing or somebody else's question. When you were looking at financial performance of the company, you were seeing that all the financial companies, NBFCs, are growing and their share prices was going up, their profitability was going up. You were the only person sinking, then it would have raised antenna. And the second thing is that the most important thing is IFC has been one of the biggest shareholders in both the companies. Now, what IFC was doing? So to me, it appears that we all are hunky-dory till such time everything is good. When something happens wrong, then I start blame game that, look, I was sleepy, I was not here, I was touring and something like this. To me, my question is that the question should be asked to each and every board of director of the company, that what was your role? Did you raise dissent? Did you raise any dissent note during last 2-3 years? What was happening? It is very easy for me to say, look, I was not involved, my brother was involved, my sister was involved, nothing. The second thing is this, he cannot absolve the responsibility because he was knowing very clearly that there are financial dealing between the company and the RSSB. The moment you involve religion into the business, whatever business you are running, I am a religious Hindu, you may be religious Hindu, but that doesn't mean that I will take shareholders fund into my faith. No way. So you have given up your fiduciary responsibility, you have failed in your fiduciary responsibility because you were put in the board to safeguard the interest of the company and shareholders. You can't be using the shareholders' money to propagate your belief in some religion or some sect. So that is what is biggest wrong. And I agree with Sandeep that not only difficult, it will be impossible for him to do this.
Okay. Sandeep, do you what might the procedure or the process be now that the case is in the NCLT? What can we expect in terms of the next few days?
So obviously I have not seen the petition, but I'm assuming that he has asked for some interim reliefs. And this is, further complicated by the Daiichi case and attachment of assets of the personal assets, etc. So I think there are so many wheels within wheels, and IFC is a shareholder. There are several other marquee shareholders in many of these companies. So it's going to be a messy ride, I would say. And if at all he gets, I really doubt he'll get some interim relief at this stage, having associated himself for decades with these companies. So my guess would be he'd probably need to wait for the operation mismanagement case to come to fruition, which will be several years away. So probably nothing's really going to happen. And the attachment orders in the Daiichi case will, of course, take its own course.
Absolutely. That's a separate matter altogether, which is also playing out in court. But Mr. Gupta, let me end then by asking you, sir, given the fact that this now also squarely involves the Radha Sangh Satsang Bias, politically, we do understand that this is a matter that several government agencies are probing. There has been no conclusive sort of finding at this point in time. We understand that it is a work in progress. But given the sensitivities politically, now that the Radhaswamy Satsang Bias seems, or at least the family, the Dhillon family's involvement, do you believe that this issue is now going to take on a very different color?
I think it is going to take a different color, but I would say not only stop that. See, the entire structure of the Religare and Fortis, RHT holding Singapore is a very, very important player. I would say that an audit of that trust has to happen because there would be lot of stories, lot of things that will be coming out of that. Because all the money has been diverted through that. If you know that there was a management deal between the Fortis and RHT Trust and lot of money had flown between the two companies. So to me, the government should immediately order, and now that is RHT is a Singapore-based company. But then somehow, I don't know, Sandeep would be in a better position to say how it can be done. A thorough audit of RHT Trust is required before anything can happen.
Sandeep, you want to make a quick comment on that before we close?
No, so I think, as you rightly said, this once it gets into religious territory, I think governments will be kind of much more wary compared to other cases. So my guess would be they'll move cautiously because they don't want a kind of a political backlash from this act.
Well, sensitivities of all sorts that will need to be dealt with. But gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here with your thoughts on where the latest developments leave the Singh brothers saga. We'll take a break, but there's a lot more coming up. Don't go anywhere.